What is up, Lex City? It's me, Brennan, and welcome back to On the Streets with Spokast. I'm currently sitting in the My Fresh Basket parking lot and need to get an energy drink. I don't, you know what I will say about grocery stores is they all have the same freaking energy drinks. All I'm looking for is a Mountain Dew. It's like I don't even know. It's not amped. It's not anything. It's just called. It's just like you drink them all the time. Oh, it's right here. I'm looking for a Mountain Dew Kickstart. That's the energy drink I like. And my place in Millwood is the only place that had it. The only reason why I didn't go there today is because Argonne has construction on it again, and it was backed up all the way to the freaking light at upriver. And so I didn't go there, and so I came here instead. And so I settled for a watermelon Red Bull, which isn't bad, but I just want a Mountain Dew Kickstart, and I want more places to carry them, and I can't find them anywhere. Let me know where Mountain Dew Kickstarts are at in Spokane, please. But the reason why I'm doing a podcast today is because, I am trying to do this daily when I can, but I want to do stuff when it strikes me to talk about things, and I don't have a Spokane thing today. I don't have a studio thing today. Actually, I do have a studio thing today. I'm actually recording in the studio today with Disney Junkie, and we're doing Mary Poppins today, which is honestly my favorite. If I'm ranking Disney movies, probably one of my favorite Disney movies. I grew up watching Mary Poppins as a kid. I wish I had a nanny like Mary Poppins when I was a kid. I didn't even have a nanny, but I had a nanny that was my grandmother, but not a nanny that watched me on the regular. And so we're doing that. We're recording that today, which is I'll be really excited to do. I love Dick Van Dyke. I talked about him last week and my Nick at Night stuff. I grew up on this really old stuff. I was watching movies from the 50s and 60s and Nick at Night. I must be a old soul at heart. But the reason why I wanted to talk to you today is because I want to talk about the joy of discovering a band or artist when they first arrive. Like an artist that is now humongous and you listened to them before anyone knew about them. And I have a couple on my list. And Ed Sheeran's one. I got hip to Ed Sheeran before his first album even came out here in the States. It came out in England first, and I think that's why I got knew about it, because my friend Rob is from England, and I'm pretty sure he told me about it, or someone else did, but I knew about Ed Sheeran way before Ed Sheeran even came to the States. And so that's one that I have. Another one that I have is Panic at the Disco. And Panic at the Disco was a rock band that was created by multiple members. The one I know mostly and most people know is Brandon Urie, and he is the lead singer of Panic at the Disco. And 20 years ago, I think actually in 2005, they released A Fever You Can't Sweat Out. Found this album on MySpace. I found Panic at the Disco on MySpace, and they were just amazing. They were under the Fall Out Boy label, fueled by Ramen, not Raymond. Fun fact about Brennan is I call it top ramen, and then I call it ramen noodles. And my wife makes fun of me all the time, but it's just something I do. I call it top ramen and ramen noodles. It must be a Midwest thing. That's my excuse for pronouncing things wrong. And so I think I got found out about them through MySpace and their the MySpace page, and then. But I must have found out through them a little bit through Fall Out Boy, because Fall Out Boy started that label fueled by ramen, and that's the only thing I can think of is that I must have been also listening to Fall Out Boy at the time, and they must have been pushing Panic at the Disco, but like at the time, Panic at the Disco had just released this album, and it wasn't like a big, well-known album yet, but it just blew up when it came out. Like, and they were humongous on MySpace, and they were wonder kids because they were all like either 18 or around 18 years old, but their album, A Fever You Can't Sweat Out, it's just full of banger after banger. You can listen to that album front to back, and the workmanship and the producing on the album is just spectacular, and it's just very well done, but it also intermixes a lot of like EDM and this like techno, and like they had a full band too. They had a guitarist. It was just, I can't say it was unlike any other band that ever existed, but they were just doing something new, and they had like their sound was just so different than other like rock bands that were out, and it was also kind of a youth movement as well. Like, I mean, I think younger people love it when, young people are making music. Like, they're drawn to their peers, and I think people around that age and younger really were drawn to Panic at the Disco. And I think their lyrics and what they represented was very like, at the time in America was George W. Bush, and it was kind of like it is today, where you're trying to like damn the man, and they were very like anti-establishment for the most part, but that album is just so good, and they came out with a 20th anniversary version like last week or 2 weeks ago, and I just like I'm very proud that I discovered Panic at the Disco before most people did. And the other part of it is, as I discovered them, they were touring around the country in smaller venues like the Knitting Factory, which is like a mid-size venue. Probably, it's a small, I wouldn't say a mid-size, on a scale of like stadiums to like coffee shops, like it's probably like 2 steps above a coffee shop, maybe 3 steps. I mean, it fits about, I bet there's about 1,500 people there, maybe. But it was, they didn't come to Spokane. They went to the Knitting Factory down in Boise, and they weren't even the headlining band. They were the opener, or one. There was 2 openers. I forget what I don't know who the first opener was. It was also somebody that's was fairly famous for a while in the 2000s. But they opened for Acceptance, and Acceptance was another they're a rock band, an emo band you'd call them. And my friend Jesse, maid of honor in mine and Abby's wedding, she loved Acceptance, and I love Panic at the Disco, and then my one friend just loved going to shows, and so we drove from Spokane to Boise, and it took like it was in like the time of year it was like it was just after the Super Bowl, and the 2005 Super Bowl, where the Seahawks lost to the Steelers, and I remember it must have been the start of free agency, because the Seahawks had Joe Juravicius on their team, and we were sitting in a bar in Boise, and Joe Juravicius had just signed maybe a 3-year deal with Cleveland, and I remember being really bummed about losing Joe Juravicius. But so we get to Boise and to go see the show. We didn't realize that Boise was an hour ahead of us, so we like planned on getting there like I think like 4 hours before the show, and like kind of bounce around like Boise, and like it didn't do any of that. We ended up just like going and getting food and then going to the show, and then we drove home from Boise to Spokane. We did this whole trip in like about 18 hours, and I'm like, why didn't we get a hotel or something? It was, I mean, at the time, 2005, I was just 21. I had just turned 21, and so you're not thinking about like going. You're driving to a show. Like I used to drive to Seahawks games there and back in the day. Like we'd leave at 6 o'clock in the morning, get to there pre-game, and then go to the game, and then drive home and do that. We would do that. I would do that sometimes 7 times a year during the season, and like so, driving places and then just coming home was just like kind of normal. But whole point of this is, if you don't know much about Panic at the Disco and you want to listen to some really good like pop rock, like this, like earworm type of music, go listen to A Fever You Can't Sweat Out. The entire album is just filled with hit after hit after hit after hit, and I was excited to see that they had like the 20th anniversary edition has like 2025 remasters on it. I don't even really understand what that means. Like, I get that it's like I know what remaster means. I know what mastering music is. Like, it's where you take all the tracks and you make it all sound tighter and better, and it sounds, like if you listen to a demo, it just sounds raw. Like it just like it's probably just a MP3 or WAV file that's just compressed and has all the tracks layered or mushed together, and it's just, and then it doesn't sound that great. Or it might just be a demo, might just be like someone in their home studio into a mic and then like singing over a music track. So, but what is a remaster in 2025 look like compared to the master that they did in 2005? I don't know if I can tell the difference by listening to the music, but I guess it just might just sound better and tighter, and you can listen to it on the lossless version on Spotify. Now I'm getting way too technical. You don't know what lossless means. I don't even really know what it means. I know this means it's like high fidelity. It's just like you're listening to all the sound tracks of the song separately, but at the same time. It's just like it's a very big file. Like if a compressed MP3 song is like 20 megabytes, a lossless like file might be like 500 megabytes. I'm making up those numbers, but that's the difference in lossless versus just like a compressed file. But I thought it was just cool, and I one thing about this podcast that I want to share is just like all like things that I think about and things I'm excited about. And I was very excited to think that, I discovered Panic at the Disco in 2005. I actually remember going and picking up the album at Hastings here in Spokane. It was a hard album to find. That wasn't like it. I don't think it was like readily available. I called the Hastings on Wellesley in Shadle Center, and they had a copy, and they reserved it for me. And I at the time was a youth group pastor or a youth leader. I wasn't a pastor. I won't give myself that title. I was not, what's it called when like I was not ordained. I was not an ordained minister. I was just like a helper at my church I was the boys youth group leader, and I did small groups with a group of kids that that are all now old. They're all old too. They're all like 35. Like I wasn't that much older than them at the time. I'm just a 21-year-old guy. Like all we did in youth group was we were going through a weekly devotional. We were reading, probably going through a book in the Bible, probably book of John, and talking about it like chapter by chapter or whatever, and then we would play hours of Super Smash Brothers Melee on the GameCube. and and then once my guys graduated, I stopped being a leader, and yeah, I'm giving you too much information now about my youth group life. I'm no longer a practicing Christian. What some people would describe as agnostic. Not that I don't believe that there's something out there. I'm unconvinced. But I do know what's out there right now is Panic at the Disco's A Fever You Can't Sweat Out, 20th edition, and you should go listen to it and enjoy the tunes of some great emo rock from the mid 2000s. It was a fun time to be listening to music. It's always a fun time to listen to music. There's always good music coming out still, and go discover it on Spotify. I should make a playlist of like things people should listen to that I like. I have have some stuff, but it's all my playlist. Like I want to curate playlists to like be very specific to me, or like I have like a 90s playlist. My 90s playlist is actually really good of R&B music, but then I do like a running playlist, and then it just becomes all my favorite music, and it's not really doesn't have like a central theme. And I need like a best of Brennan playlist. I like that, a best of Brennan playlist. So this was supposed to only be like a 5-minute podcast, and it's ended up being gonna be probably an 18-minute podcast. So, but it was filled with information about something that you should go and enjoy, and I think you probably learned something today that you didn't already know. Thank you so much for being here with On the Streets with Brennan. Tomorrow on Hump Day, I'm going to release a very special episode. I recorded it yesterday with my friend Jazz Boyd. We drove around Spokane for about 30 minutes and talked about his 3 things, so stay tuned for that. And I feel like I was going to end this episode with a question. I really wanted to ask a question. Oh, yeah. The question is, I discovered Panic at the Disco before most people discovered him. Who is your artist or band that you discovered before anybody else heard them? Leave it in the comment section here on either Spotify or YouTube, wherever you're at. And yeah, let me know. And because it's always cool to like learn about like who people heard of before they became famous. I'm trying to think of other people I've heard about before they became like really famous. Kind of always find out about people like right when they're like breaking through now. It's like with social media now, it's kind of hard to go under the radar and then just explode as a band. It's because like you're already been discovered, and like most record labels, I wouldn't say most, but like a lot of record labels that if they're looking for like content creators that are like musicians, they have millions of followers already. And so most record labels probably won't even sign you if you don't have more than a certain amount of people following already that by yourself. So it's what I would call like the Justin Bieber effect. Is like Justin Bieber is a great artist. He's, for what it's worth, makes really good music, well produced, all the things. But he got famous being on YouTube and singing. He was like early on YouTube and making cover videos. And I guess you could have discovered Justin Bieber on YouTube when he was doing those covers and he hadn't become famous yet, and Usher signed him to, his label. But yeah, I think it's harder to discover bands now. But maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm just not looking in the right places. So again, thank you so much for listening to this On the Streets with Brennan Panic at the Disco edition. I'm sorry for all the ahs. I'm trying to break that. I need to figure it out. I do edit some of them out because there's so many of them. But again, I'm on one this morning apparently. So thank you so much. I'll see you all tomorrow with a special edition of On the Streets with Spokast with Jazz Boyd. Until next time, peace.